We are live. We'll be joined by David Glod in a few minutes. We're testing a new setup here, so we came to live earlier than normal. Today we're talking about Tour Edge exotics. Got some couple of drivers talking about Tour Edge in general, but lots of clubs over here. The wedges that people don't talk about a lot. And you bear with us. We will have David on, the founder and president of Tour Edge, along with R&D, very soon. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining us. What do you think of the new setup here? Hey, Donnie. Good afternoon, Matt. What do you think of the new digs? Hey, Scott. Thanks, Todd. What's up, Dax? Thank you, thank you. Testing out some new cameras here with everybody. Should see pretty good image depending on your internet quality. If you see me looking down at the screen, and I'll explain this during the stream, it's because I have to read your questions. Not that I'm being rude and not enjoying you. How is the sound, everybody? I don't have any 521s, Michael. Bear with me, guys. We're checking a setting real fast. Hopefully that fixes everything for everybody. Going to invite David in now. David, how are you?
Great, Josh. How are you, buddy?
I am not hearing David.
You're not hearing me? Let's see here. How about now?
Bear with me, guys. That's why we came on earlier. We're using a new setup. Okay, I think we are all fixed as soon as I put the screen back. David, thanks for joining us.
You bet. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Good.
So we have lots of people tuning in. We're going to give away a prize here in a little bit. We're not going to tell them what that prize is. They're just going to know it's a Tour Edge product arriving at their house, and that it may be one of these products over to my left that they can't see. For everybody out there, this is David Glod, president and founder of Tour Edge. And we're going to kind of jump into a little bit of stuff because we're nearing, I believe, and I'm going off memory here, 35 years of Tour Edge?
Yes, sir. 34.
Nearing 35.
Near, that's correct. Nearing.
So
hopefully it's not going to be as crazy as 34.
Yeah, we're hopeful of that as well. Can you kind of give everybody, if you've rewind all the way back 35 years, what made you decide to do this other than you thought you could build something better?
Well, yeah, for sure. So back then I had a repair business going, and, I was refinishing golf clubs, reshafting clubs, and it was kind of Wilson, Hogan, Ping had just started. And the price was really high and everything. McGregor was there too as well. But, back then Dynacraft started, which was importing investment cast club heads out of Taiwan and making them available to anybody, and Golfsmith to a lesser extent. So we just started buying some components and putting together custom sets. And we really saw an avenue because of the cost of the product from Taiwan and the investment casting, kind of like Ping was doing. That was all brand new. So everything prior to that was, forged, expensive club heads to make. So that allowed us to sell sets of irons for, $275 and make a nice profit and custom fit the guy locally, just all direct. We had a tiny little shop over here in West Chicago, and it was kind of born that way.
So if you think back to those first products, you never saw or thought of anything like this. I mean, you didn't really think you'd be doing carbon fiber crowns, tungsten weighting, things like that. When you think of all the things you've done over the years with manufacturing, how much has it changed? And what do you say to the person that says, all golf clubs are the same, nothing's changed in 20 years?
Oh, that's crazy, because especially now with the advanced CAD systems, artificial intelligence, the software we have, the knowledge we have with all the computer ball launchers, things like that, it's a daily grind to keep improving, and you can do it. Shaft choices are up, through the roof. Materials are improving there. Club heads, look at all the graphite we have now. We've got a club head coming out next year that has probably 70% of the driver head is graphite. So
what the heck, man? We don't know about this one yet.
Yeah, we're moving. You're not going to hear about that yet, but we're moving so much weight into specific areas that we're much better attuned to controlling launch and spin, which is what drivers are all about, right?
So how much did you have to shift in design with the modern golf ball? Because you've been doing this going back to when we were dealing with wound golf balls and Bellata balls that were significantly spinnier off the tee, a lot of people believe. How much design had to change for Tour Edge internally to make that jump to the next level?
I would say less than you think, only because, there's a big gap from Bellata to now, right? But the evolution process with the ball is lower spin, higher launch. It just keeps getting to be more and more of that. So if you ever notice, if you're an old guy like me, sometimes hitting a punch under a tree, the ball goes straight up into the tree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that shot well.
It doesn't want to stay down. And it drives me nuts, because I almost can't hit that shot anymore. Because you don't have a 4-iron in your bag either, right? You have hybrids and everything goes up. But yeah, it's certainly a part of it. The last few years, I haven't seen really that much difference in the ball as far as that goes. I think they've hit kind of a pinnacle, but it's
no pun intended.
A challenge. Absolutely.
When you're dealing with R&D, and we talk a lot about Tour Edge and materials and the different metals used, how much of the feel of somebody getting is metal and how much of it is style?
Oh, that's a great question, because my background is more in the design and the shape and those things, and now I've got such a great engineering team that's taking care of the metals side, like you're talking about. So it's a combination, certainly. We actually try to start with a shape or a shape idea, and then see if we can engineer it to where we get the CG locations, the MOI, the face height, loft bulge and roll, all to be perfected to create the ultimate machine.
When you're talking about, and I'm holding one of these up, one of the questions we get so much is about forgiveness of products. And we're going to dive into a few of your products here and then take some questions. For those holding on for our contest, it's coming. Stay with us. We're going to make you listen to two boring guys chat for a little bit beforehand. If you're looking at a design like this and you have a Max MOI logo right there and there's weight placement, and MOI has become a buzzword, and moment of inertia is something very real in golf, as you and I have talked about privately in your offices before. Do you think that as a label, MOI is taking on a forgiveness? I can do finger quotes, we're not on a podcast. Forgiveness more so than it really should, and that there's other things that should pertain to forgiveness, like ball speed, spin retention, things like that?
Yeah, totally. MOI is an interesting creature because it really varies from golfer to golfer what you really need. Majority of golfers swing speed, say under 90, definitely high MOI is good. Once you get above that, sometimes MOI hurts you because you get too much spin or too much lift, and you don't get enough power in the center of the face. So it's a really interesting bird, and we really kind of fit golfers based on different MOIs now. So like in my case, I'm about 110 miles an hour, and the 220 driver, for instance, it's just too high of an MOI for me, and I gain too much spin, and I really can't match up the ball well with the head. But if I go to the Pro, the new model, that's got a CG closer to the face with probably a 2,000 less MOI, that feels good to me, and I hit that straighter, even though it's a lower MOI.
One of the things that really brought this to light is the idea of Fairway Woods and how, you can trick MOI in a lot of ways, like you can swing weight. You can trick these things to hit a certain number. In reality, it might not be helping the golfer, as you just said. You can pack a lot of weight deep, but that might not be the best way to help the golfer. So have we seen in recent years an arms race to high MOI based on a number rather than actually trying to help the golfer?
No, yes and no. Some people promote it with numbers that way. Some golf companies, and we kind of do to some degree, at least one of those numbers. But it definitely improves most players' strike and straightness, no doubt.
Now, when we talk about clubs, you have a lot of them here, but the newest line is 521, and Hot Launch is a different animal, so to speak. Hot Launch is something that you guys are super proud of because you're taking the barriers off of price without taking the performance away. It's anything anybody wants it to be. It is different than exotics, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's less performing than exotics. When you came up with the idea for Hot Launch, which has evolved from the Tour Edge brand, where did it come from and where did you think it could go?
Well, as you know, we had this HL, so we had HL3, HL4, great performers in the marketplace. And same thing, we have kind of three layers to our business: our beginning sets, our middle end, which is the Hot Launch, and the exotics. So what we're trying to do at all three levels is just gracefully improve them year by year. And you will see it in the new 521 series. First of all, we have two models, two totally different kind of methods by which to improve somebody's game. One we call the E for extreme, which is shallow face, deep center of gravity, high MOI, offset, really easy to hit. So that's a good majority of players, certainly slice fighting as well. And then we have our competition line, we call it the C division, which is more classic, taller faces, but still very playable and advances, the average to good player's game. So it's two-pronged more than it was in the past, which is really cool, we think, for the fitting capabilities. And it's beautiful, and it has more features, and we've picked up some of those features from exotics, like our diamond face technology in the driver and fairways. So a lot of going on technology-wise that we're kind of pulling in from our exotics technologies.
So There's two things about 521 I want to ask you, and then we're going to get into some reader questions, and I guess viewer questions would be more specific. The first is the Soul labeled Houdini, which is anything but hidden. Where did the name come from? Because it's kind of the opposite of the Disappearing Act. And what exactly will that do? Now, you had a hybrid, and my God, I cannot believe the name escapes me a few years back. I can't remember. But the Soul reminded me of that a little bit, and I thought that Soul was fantastic. Where did the name and the idea come from for Houdini?
Well, some of us out there, or some of you out there might remember we had a Bazooka J-Max Houdini club before, which is really offset, high loft.
You got an email.
Yeah, sorry about that. And Houdini is a trademark of ours that we always wanted to use again. And the triangular Soul in the back there, the rudder that you're talking about that we had an X-rail.
Mm-hmm.
That's a patent.
X-rail. That's it.
Rail. And that has a patent of ours. So that's a utility patent. So the fact that it really works to reduce drag and really get the club head through the turf and the fairway. But also in the driver, it's this heavy trailing edge that really helps increase the MOI and the deep center of gravity. So that's Houdini is all about escapism, and it's magic. It's our magic club. So give it a try.
When you designed Hot Launch HL5, I guess I'll say, for the HL521 for the first time, when did you decide that it should be 2 lines?
Well, if you think back even further, and I don't want to go back. There's no point in that. But offset's always a big play for Tour Edge. Really, only a handful of other makers ever make it. And it makes so much sense because no matter how much you switch the weights from heel to toe or get the right shaft, with an onset driver, people just still slice the ball. But with changing the whole shaft dynamic, half an inch further so that you have this incredible amount of face closure through impact from the offset, it actually works. So that's why we've been a big proponent of that. And then, of course, there's a player that can't look at it, and we're trying to always make it so it's hard to see the offset.
Yeah.
A lot of golfers, even people that need help and kind of want a great value in this Hot Launch product, they want a straight away look. So, really in sales, it's probably about 65% offset and 35% straight.
We're going to take some questions. Before we do, I need to point out this club, which is the Tie Utility. I know James on our website did a review and a video on this one, and it's as good as any utility out there. My question is, you're using titanium cup, the materials are through the roof, as good as anything else out there. It's got a good shaft pairing. Everything about this thing screams high quality. What can be done to a utility club that's not already being done?
Well, that's a tough question. I think the beauty of this one, just to back it up, what you're saying is it's probably the only titanium face utility club as far as an iron style.
Mm-hmm.
Makes so much sense because the titanium, we save twice as much weight from the face and are able to get a deeper center of gravity, but we don't have to make a super wide sole. That's what's really cool about that particular product. I think you're going to see more of that from other makers. I think we're at the front of the line there in technology. But I like the lower profiles I'm starting to see in these. I think that's automatic. I mean, the first way to get the ball up and make it easy to hit is lower the face height. That's dynamic number one, right? That's what we did in the E521. You look at all these face heights. Face heights are extremely shallow. So they're extremely easy to hit.
So, guys, you've been wondering about a contest, and we have some prizes here. We're going to put together a great prize pack for you. We're going to take a bunch of your questions here for David. You have an open book for one of the smartest R&D guys we know. ask anything. We're going to randomly pick somebody who asks a question and we post it, and we're going to send you a prize. We'll announce the winner on our forum later this afternoon, so keep in mind. This question from Golf Unfiltered: considering the number of golfers in 2020, what is Tour Edge most excited about heading into 2021?
We hope they all keep playing, right? So yeah, it's been crazy, right? So yeah, we're certainly excited. Now it's kind of a grind, getting product, designing product quick enough to get it to market, and sourcing it enough, because there's a huge demand for golf club equipment now from all makers. We all pretty much ran out of everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. How do you deal? This is a really interesting question. How do you deal with the regulatory compliance for certain parts like tungsten?
No, that's another tough question. I don't really know, because I leave it up to my people, my engineers, legal staff. But that's a good question. The tungsten we're using isn't a pure tungsten, for one. I don't think anybody's using pure tungsten, for instance. And most of everything's done in China and then shipped over here as a finished head. And they have their own rules and regulations over there. And we just kind of, I'm sure we just abide by whatever our vendors have to go around. But the tougher ones right now that I've heard of are PVD finishes, because it's a real toxic environment. And so is chrome plating. And some of the new laws in China are making that more difficult to produce. And if you really look at, if you know golf club irons, there's not a club in the premium end that's not chrome plated. So it's a bit of a struggle right now on that side of things.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of people think we make products overseas strictly for the cost, but a reality is a lot of it is due to regulatory. Interesting question from E-Rock is, how do you pick your color schemes for the new lines? Are they based on certain trends, or do you give John Claffey free reign, or how does it work?
So typically I'm still the man when it comes to what we call ID, right? I'm always looking at trends in whatever field, whether it's anything from women's fashion to other golf clubs.
Blue and red worked well here. Colors
of the year, right? But also, what did we do the last few sessions? Well, we want to do something fresh. So that plays a big part of it as well.
Question from Darren: how has the pro line of clubs been received? I can answer that really, really well.
Better than we expected. I think it's because they're very playable. They're super low spin and everything, but they're very playable at the same time. And it's kind of it's almost a new trend where maybe the players clubs are too much players clubs, and you're starting to see that balance between forgiveness and being a good players club. And that's even tour pros. If you really look at, they're playing so many cavity backs, so many hollow irons, for instance. It's a great example of that. They want forgiveness too, and they see the power of that, because you got a tight lie. You want to be able to hit far off the bottom, and that's hard to do with a solid blade club.
We have so many questions coming in, so bear with me, guys, as I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking at all of them. This one's an interesting one from Dean. The Wingman seems to have done really well, and our feedback on our forum and our website have been extremely good. Will we see that expand with a milled face or something like that from the Tour Series?
Well, I don't think so. I think you'll see some new models. But we're utilizing a thermoplastic elastomer insert, which really helps to do several things. And yeah, we could mill that different, but we mill these nice grooves in it, straight grooves, that, there's a lot of patents in that category. And we know this patent or this methodology is acceptable. And it picks up the ball and gets it rolling nicely. So when you're doing thermoplastic versus, say, steel in our milled putters, which we don't currently make right now, there's really no benefit. So we're kind of going with the technology. The other thing that's great about the thermoplastic is it's almost a half an inch thick. So the weight is really light. So we're able to pull more weight out of that face area, get it back deeper in the head for that high MOI, which is why this putter's so good.
This one I can answer, but I'm going to have you answer it. What does 521 stand for?
Okay, so we started classifying our products, and this is the first one. We'll probably have a 2 series, a 3 series, 5 series, and a 7 series. So this is the first one of the bunch, and then 21 is for 2021.
That's interesting. I actually thought it was HL5 21 for the year.
Good guess.
Yeah, I'm here, and I'll make it up gladly for everybody. E-Rock asks, how has COVID impacted your 48-hour guarantee?
Completely annihilated it, basically. I think we've probably been 48 hours on exotics, kind of flipped actually to exotics for about, I don't know, 6 weeks. But really, since COVID started, we haven't been compliant in the hot launch arena hardly at all. And the good news on the other side of the fence is we're typically at least able to ship within a week or two. And then we just completely ran out.
Yeah.
Which at the beginning of COVID in March, we're looking at our inventory going, oh boy, what are we going to do? Right. And then 2 months later, the floodgates open and the shelves are empty in 2 more months. And it was just unbelievable. So we're excited that 521 is going to hit the shelf next week and take its place in the same category.
I'm going to give a compliment to John because I assume he's not listening. And for those who have watched this or are watching us, you've probably seen us do a live stream with John Claffey, who's communications and all things at Tour Edge, as well as helpful. He did a tremendous job of keeping our readers informed with transparency and honesty about what Tour Edge was doing. And it added a little bit of a connection that I don't think every brand was good at. Some were. But he did a really good job of being transparent. Like, listen, guys, we need your help. And little did we know that nobody was going to need anybody's help because everything in the world was going to sell. But it was really nice to work with somebody who was open and honest and clear to say, this is what's going on, this is what's not. And not every company was like that. A question from Michael. What's your favorite piece of technology that Tour Edge has introduced recently? And if it's not the Houdini Soul, I'm going to struggle with the answer.
No, actually, it's the diamond face pattern. And why that is because there's so many little diamonds, which is thin and thick spots behind the face. It's 30, 40 little areas. Okay, so the cool thing about the diamond face is right now we have this computer animated or FEA software designed face that is the best at this time for these balls, this club head shape, club head thickness. So what it is thin and thick spots that is not just thick in the center like a normal kind of regular face and thin on the outside for a trampoline, but it's all these thin and thick spots that combine and interact with each other for faster launch speeds all over the face. Cool thing is you can plug in, say, spot 2 and 22 and 42 at 2.8 millimeters thickness, or you can plug them in at 1.8 millimeters thickness. And on the computer, you can actually see what the benefit or the disbenefit is of this changing these little squares, or we call them diamonds. That's exciting to me because we can always evolve this and improve it, at least to some degree, over the next few years.
That's pretty darn cool. This is an interesting question from Carl because I know you're interested in materials. What material outside of standards like titanium, carbon, and tungsten, do you think there could be an area that could excel in golf? What's next for materials?
That's always been a great question. I wish something would come along that takes over for titanium, for instance. But the titanium does improve. I would be more keep your eye on steel. The steels, again, I think it's easier for them to improve them on an ongoing basis. Companies like mine aren't scared to pay more for better steel or better titanium. So, and with aerospace, military related needs, they're always improving all these. Some of these planes are made mostly from carbon now. So we're just pulling things from those industries that are always improving. Like on the steel, why I say steel is because even on, the C521 fairway with the diamond face and a new steel, we're making this face about 20 grams lighter than the last one.
Wow.
It gives you a lot to work with, and automatically your CT is going up automatically. So it makes it easier to achieve greater power just on a vernacular basis. So, I don't see any brand new materials, but I think you'll keep seeing more carbon, finer steel, higher grade titanium, especially with golf clubs being priced as high as they are today.
This is an interesting question about the Slipstream Soul, and you and I have had this conversation many times. Can you give some pro feedback on it? Because in a lot of ways, that's how it's evolved because of the great feedback and because it's been so well received.
Yeah, definitely. It depends on the pro. And these guys can be super picky, but overall, helping us kind of redefine it and making it skip through the turf faster. They've been a part of that. Now, at first look, some of them are like, "What the heck is that?" Right? But it's like, wow, they're on the range.
Sure you guys can see that.
Harder than rock, and it just kind of skips through, and they're like, "All right, I can see that. I can feel that I'm gaining speed through the hitting area, and even if I chunk it just a freckle, it's going to get through better than no Slipstream Soul." So it's been a great, effective way to build a golf club head.
Matt wants to know about female purchases, and I'm not sure if you're the person to answer this, but you probably know it anyway. Both his mother-in-law and sister purchased HL irons. Sure they did, Matt. Just happened to have David on today. What have you seen in the marketplace as far as female golfers increasing?
Yeah, it's crazy, actually. I think they're 20% of all golfers now.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so if that sticks around, that'll be really interesting. I've seen it firsthand because my wife never really played more than twice a year. She played 40 times since she didn't have a gym to go to. But yeah, and that's a great line to purchase is the hot launch, because exotics is geared more for a little more powerful player, and hot launch is going to be much better geared for women, seniors. Just by everything in general, it's a little bit softer shaft, easier to hit designs than the exotics.
James wants to know if we'll see a continuation in the use of computer testing, evolving diamond faces as well as the acoustic bar internally.
Yeah, no doubt. It's kind of like I already said, but the diamond face really gives us a lot of variability, and we can kind of do it relatively rapidly with our FEA software on our computer CAD system, where we just plug in some different thicknesses and try it, and then we actually see on the face of the club hot spots and how they grow or dissipate in the computer CAD model itself. So that's a great start. And then, of course, we have to prove it out with the actual parts, right? But yes, and pretty much everybody has wings or something on the internal side to help mostly control the sound.
We hear that a lot.
The thin heads, they tend to get loud. And of course, now we got a lot of carbon, so you don't want the carbon sound either, because that's kind of clunky. So it's always trying to get that titanium sound off what's coming off the back of the face. You want to harness that, and that's what you want to hear.
Donald wants to know, given the MOI swing speed information earlier, do you see future development where players are fit into clubs similar to the way they are for balls?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think MOI can be a great fitting tool, especially in the driver, because it's a really big head, so we can really change the MOI. Fairways, to a degree, it's probably more about center of gravity, since the head's so much shallower and smaller. But I'm really I think the last year we've really learned about MOI because we tried to get it so high. And
right.
then, okay, there's always a problem with everything, right? How do we improve it next time? Well, the next one's going to be high, but it's going to have, we found a lower center of gravity. We want a lower center of gravity with not quite as high an MOI, and it's going to fit more players. So that's part of it, is how do we fit more players with the next line so that, everybody's buying our driver or everybody's buying our 3-wood, not just a singular plus 105 mile an hour guy.
Right.
The way we designed it. So we're trying to be really cognizant of that. And you're seeing that out there with, most of the companies have three or four driver styles now.
Stuart would like to know, with your technology background, have you ever thought about developing proprietary shafts?
Yeah, I love shafts. Absolutely love them.
We've had this conversation a few times at your office.
I always wanted to start a brand within shafts, but we just never got to it. And the other thing that's necessary that we don't have right now is there might be one shaft company in the United States that makes them here, which is kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because it's hard to get supply now too. So it'd be wonderful to buy them locally. And I don't think we're far away from that happening again. It's a little bit cost prohibitive, but with the material costs going up on the shafts anyway, it's getting closer to that period when you should see more and more of shaft makers, just like True Temper did. They moved back their steel manufacturing to Memphis, all of it.
Yeah.
They're not even in China anymore.
I've been to that plant, and I can tell any THPer that's following right now, if you ever have a chance, and I don't know if you will, to tour the True Temper plant in Amory, Mississippi, which is right outside of Memphis, you need to go. It is one of the coolest things you will ever do. It's wild what they're doing there. We have a lot more questions, and if you're asked a question, you're entered into the contest, but we don't want to keep David all afternoon. But we have a couple that I have to ask. Bunker Snot would like to know the picture behind you. Is that a real hole, and what course?
That is painting my mother painted for me. She's an artist, oil painter, and it's Stonebridge #1 right here in must be North Aurora, Illinois.
Now, for those that don't know, you don't live in Illinois. The company is in Illinois, and you commute in. So for everybody out there that's a pure Michigan fan, David is a Michigan person.
I am.
Speaking of shafts, G-Man would like to know, what are the ones behind your desk?
Oh, yeah. Some brand new GD stuff, graphic design.
I actually have one of those right there.
Yeah, they're cool. Great company, just very expensive, right?
Yeah, they make a high-quality product, a solid product. A lot of shaft companies do, but that ADHD that's over there is done pretty well. We're going to let David go now, or in a couple seconds, with a couple of quick questions that we received throughout here that I want to ask. When you look at what Tour Edge was able to accomplish this year in this crazy business, what is on the horizon, and how careful do you have to be not to explode with inventory and be stuck with it? What I like to call how TaylorMade killed the golf industry a few years ago, when they just brought out everything and it didn't sell.
Yeah, I know. We wrestle with this minute by minute, truly. Good question. So, we're buying, I would say, at a rate that's faster, but safe. So we're planning on selling X amount.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not, so be it, because we're not sure where the world's going still, sadly.
2 questions. The first is, what is your favorite Tour Edge product you've ever come out with that's not current? Because I don't want somebody to say, oh, the new one's the greatest one. What's the favorite one you've ever come out with?
That's a really hard question.
You do have the coolest club graveyard, I'll call it graveyard, of any company I've been to, because you have a lifetime warranty, and there's some gems back there.
Yeah.
If you don't follow them on Instagram, you should, because they post on the Throwback Thursdays, which is in a couple of days. I thought today was Thursday. They post a new one, old one, every Thursday, and it's pretty cool.
I'm going to pick a little bit of an oddball. It's just a great 3-wood. It was our CB Pro F2.
And we have any guest we have on, we always ask them what's in the bag right now. And I'd guess, but I'm not going to do it because I think, are you still playing the hybrid irons, the dark ones?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
No, I have listen to this bag. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Irons, Tie Utility number 4. No 5. A EXS 220H 6 iron, which I hit
right over there.
170 to 200. I can kind of hit it all kinds of distances. Then I just go into the new Pro Forged, the cavity back. EXS Pro Forged 7 on down. The new wedges, which is EXS Pro or EXS Blade. I still have I move back and forth between a Wingman center shafted and a DG Proto milled putter from 15 years ago. And then I have a brand new prototype Exotics driver in my bag right now.
Well, that's not cool.
And 4 hybrid. So pretty funky setup.
So I can tell you that just yesterday we tested out the EXS hybrid irons again. We have the black set, not a complete set, but a few of the irons over there. And I get the whole loft discussion and things like that, but those things are missile launchers. If people haven't tried them, get a chance. They're really solid. We want to thank David for coming on. Thank to all of you guys who took time out of your Tuesday afternoon to join us and talk. Check out the new studio and our new camera setup and everything. And we'll be back to you with a new live stream pretty soon. And we're definitely going to have David back on to take more of your questions. If you're following along for the contest, we will announce that winner in the forum in about 1 hour. Thanks, everybody.